Okay, it is March 12th, and I have just got done planting 18 pawpaw trees down in this shady bottom. There is a dry creek that runs whenever we get a good bit of rain. There's a little bit of water hanging on there. I'll show you another spot with more water. There's more water further down. This was running pretty good 2 days ago, but I'll walk through and show you. Got seedlings from the Missouri Conservation Department. I ordered seedlings before these. It's kind of hard to focus on that. These are much better trees than what we previously got. I will go through and rake leaves back to make sure the ground stays a little more moist. Previously, when I ordered trees, they were all like this tall. I mean, just six inches max on most of them. Very puny roots. That was 7-8 years ago when I was first starting to get into planting trees and starting to think about growing food, mostly for deer food plots back then. But these are for us. So they're about roughly 6 foot apart down here in this bottom. Again, it's very shaded. Pawpaws like shade for the most part until they get bigger. Someday some of these trees might come out. There's a lot of trees that are 10 to 12 inches down here. Like this is a red elm. You can see what it's like up there. Over here is 2 walnuts. There's a pretty good sized walnut. And you can just see these walnuts down here are never going to be much for lumber trees. That one on the left would be a little better, but it's got a scar on the backside. But I just went down through here along the bottom in the best soil that we have on the place, putting these in. Extremely hard to plant them, but this is what the dirt looks like here. Nice, dark, and it's this way all the way down in most places. Much more rich than most of the places that I plant on this place. Extremely hard to dig these holes. I mean, you can just see how thick the trees are through here. There's an old tire from long before we were here, but you can see how thick the trees are through this bottom, and all those trees are putting roots into the ground. So on top of having rocks like this one, I mean just a big old chunk of rock, there's tree roots everywhere. So I was having to pickaxe holes and then fight to shovel it and get it deep enough. The trees we received had a lot of taproot, most of the taproot, if not all the taproot on all of these trees. So they should transplant fairly well. I don't know if they potted them or just went down very deep with their digger whenever they were digging them out of the nursery bed. But they did a very good job of getting them to us with a nice root system on them. Every one of these trees is marked with a tomato stake. These are left over from what I didn't sell last year. And so we will check on these in the spring. Like I said, I'll go back and rake leaf mulch around there. That's another pool of water. There's a pool that goes on up that way to a spring in the holler. That was used by the old house. You can't see it from here, but there was an old log cabin up there that burned years and years ago. There's still a lot of stuff like an old stove and a bed that the kids really like to go play around in. But we will come back through and I'll rake mulch, leaves and stuff around these to help make sure they stay moist through any dry parts of the summer. We'll check on them and see how they're doing in a few months. I am not as excited about these after I ordered them. I wanted to grow some because they're disease resistant. Even if they produce relatively little per tree, in 10 years, we would get some food that we could use, if not for us, for livestock fodder. And then I found out that pawpaws have a neurotoxin in them. I haven't done a lot of research on it, but heard firsthand accounts. Pigs will not eat pawpaws. I know some deer will. I know raccoons will chew on them. But pigs will not eat pawpaws. I don't know if chickens will. I know geese will. But if you throw them whole to poultry and they can get the seeds down, they will die from a toxin that is contained in the seeds. So I am not as excited about pawpaws. After learning all that, But we'll still, I don't want to see any trees go to waste, especially if I've paid a little bit of money for them. So we'll see if they do anything, at least introduce the kids to Paw Paw bread. I haven't had a Paw Paw in about 25 years, somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 years since I've had one. But I wouldn't mind tasting one again just to hand it off to the kids. I know I'm not going to care much for it, but again, if we can get a little bit of production out of this bottom, the only thing we get food-wise out of this bottom, there's a lot of ash trees like that one there, and that one there, and the one above it. The only production we get are out of walnuts this size, and they're not producing much, especially whenever they're fighting ash trees, and there's a post oak over there. There is one walnut right up there we actually collected quite a bit of walnuts off of this year, and I'm still cracking them, still eating them, they're still good. But that's all we get for production out of this bottom. If we can get some production with Paw Paws in 10, 15 years, we'll at least be getting something out of this bottom instead of just shade and a cool spot for kids to come down and hang out whenever the water's running, whenever it rains a lot.